What is up, everybody? It is me, Mike Vanderpool, here today with the Make It Happen podcast. And I have a very special guest, Alicia, rhymes with Adisha Wagner.
Yep.
Or is it
That's
Wagner?
Yeah.
Wagner.
No, it's Alicia Wagner.
All right. Alicia Wagner here. I have met you never before. This is our first time actually physically meeting.
It is. It's almost like everybody's in the coffee shop with us. We're just getting to know each other.
Yes. I love it.
I do too.
This is like the ultimate, like, just make it happen. Reach out to somebody on LinkedIn because I saw you speak at a Rotary event, I believe.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago. For Rare Disease Day.
And that is awesome because that's something I'm interested in, and I like to talk to people who can teach me things. So, Alicia, the conversation today is going to go all over the place.
Love it.
So, if you have any questions that you have for me, feel free to interrupt me. If I'm saying something stupid, tell me, Mike, you're stupid. I don't want to talk about that. And we'll just...
We don't say stupid in our house, so it's probably not going to show up here either. No.
Okay,
We'll use different language.
Why is that?
It just, nobody is stupid, right? We're either sometimes confused or misunderstood, but yeah, stupid, no.
Really? You don't have teenagers?
Not yet, you're right. It's like, we're going to have me on in 5 more years, and I'll be like, Mike, remember that conversation?
My daughter, I love her to death, my oldest daughter, we left for an evening, and then when we got home, there was a storm of kids out the back door. There was cars in the front yard. Like, it's just like, so we affectionately call a group of teenagers a stupid of teenagers. So that's a group. STOOPID though.
Yeah. See, words, I've gone through a lot of trainings now, and words have energy. And I think just certain words, when we harbor them, they bring energy and they bring connotation, and we just, we don't need that.
Okay.
That's where I'm at.
I'm going to stop using that word then.
Well, that's up to you. I mean, and you're not calling, my kids will say things are stupid, but, we don't call people stupid, right?
Okay. Fair.
Fair? Okay.
And folks, that's how this podcast is going to go.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bunch of squirrel chasing. So
But now it's like you're thinking, like, what are the other words, right? Like, what are the words I'm using? Where do I need to change that? Listen, I've had to change a lot of words, and some of them were my favorite. These were 4-letter words. And so, yeah.
Every time I swear, I owe my son $1 because he hates
Do you have the swear jar?
swearing. Yes. And thank you, Jared, my cousin, for making that happen.
Yeah.
Because I swear a lot. In my classroom, I'm swearing all the time. I try not to because after a certain period of time, it loses its effectiveness, right?
Yeah.
So I use it almost like when I need your effing attention, I'm going to use the F word.
Yeah.
Or when I'm trying to think.
I'm from a small town, and so it was very difficult for me. I mean, it was just very much a part of our language growing up, and it became a large part of my language in corporate, especially being in male-dominated fields. And so, yeah, it was special walking a lot of that back when I had kids, and to come forward and mom in a more authentic way for my kids.
So where were you born then?
Wapakoneta, Ohio, home of Neil Armstrong.
There we go. And Alicia Wagner.
Yeah. I've always believed the sky's the limit. There's some truth to that, with coming from a place where the first man on the moon, and there was just a lot of talk around innovation and space and pushing limits. And so, it's interesting that you bring that up, because there is some truth that I grew up with that mentality.
That's awesome. I mean, is there like statue, museum, everything, like in school, you have a Neil Armstrong?
Yeah, there's a Neil Armstrong museum. Our town is around 10,000 people, and it's a bunch of little country towns that kind of even make up the smaller town, of Wapakoneta. And so, as you can imagine, that was our field trip, every other year, right? Because we didn't have any other places to go. And so, but, I fell in love with science and stars and space and just the unknown and the curiosity and yeah, I adore it.
And did you want to be an astronaut?
I did for a hot minute. Firefighter, policewoman, lawyer, pediatrician, and it's funny now because that kind of, all of those things encapsulate a little bit of what I'm doing today.
Yeah, very cool.
It is cool.
And what is it that you do today?
Yeah. So, I mean, should I recap? Like right now, I'm taking all of my past and bringing it forward to launch a health wellness clinic for kids. So my daughter had a rare condition. It was misdiagnosed, not well understood. And so taking all of my past life being in pharmaceuticals for close to 10 years and consulting and owning a farm to table restaurant and putting all of that down to build a concept that I'm working on now that encapsulates all of that. But then old school from wanting to be a lawyer or a pediatrician, there's a justice element to this and there's like a law component to this. So it's really cool, definitely the pediatrician side. And so it's fun to see all these things of past and present come together and really bring forward a lot of elements of things that I can now look at and be like, okay, that all had a purpose and a reason.
It was all kind of preparing you for now.
Absolutely.
So how is the law a part of what you're doing right now?
Wow, there's so many systems that are wrong and broke. I'll give you one statistic that, you see it probably on LinkedIn when you see me go on my tangents, but, suicide is the second leading cause of death in kids age 9 to 24. And so when we talk about justice,
that's ridiculous.
it's effing insane. Like we should have my button of, like the world should just stop. Like if there's anything of importance going on, and it's the number one cause of death for kids age 14 to 15.
That's
So when we talk about like, okay, well then how does legal come into that and justice? It's, there are certain systems, there are certain things that are happening out here that are no longer serving us and they need to be changed. So from a political standpoint, from reform to there's certain laws that are currently going on. Like I'll give you an example, like with pediatricians and different mandates from their offices and things that are going on. And, antidepressants have a black box warning for kids under 18, but we haven't made the correlation. These things are being handed out like candy. We're not doing differential diagnosis for mental disorders. And so it's a mess. And so there's an element of that justice, legal, law side that it's really coming into the research and information that I'm coming across on a daily basis.
And I'm assuming it was probably difficult in previous political environments, but this one feels like everything's a little bit more difficult. Is what's going on right now having an impact in some of this?
Well, it's twofold for me because I'm already working on a lot of the things and have for the past, I would call it the past 7 to for sure the last 2 years. I've been out here working on a lot of stuff right now that has come to the forefront. And I don't have a political affiliation. I'm more about what's right. And I've voted across both parties. I'm about issues. I'm about, doing what's right. And so it's interesting. I'm automatically, without changing a thing, I'm automatically being picked up and putting into the MAHA movement.
Okay.
Because I'm passionate about things that are now in an administration. So that's very difficult because now when you come out and talk about some of these things about clean eating or, different alternative options that a lot of these kids are needing, a lot of people are just turned off immediately, put their hand out, and I'm not paid attention to because I must be a Republican when that is in fact not the case.
Yeah, you just almost guilty by association because you agree with one thing that they have out there.
Yes. Well, and then the other side of the coin would be, there are some things that are happening politically that I don't agree with that's going on with this administration. Like, we're also not going to get anywhere if we can't move forward in certain areas where we do agree. Like we talked about the statistic that I just brought forward. Mm-hmm. Okay, can we find common ground on behalf of kids to figure out how to move this back from a bipartisan standpoint? And now there's so much fighting, there's so much going on in so many different areas that the kids are the ones that are suffering because the adults in the room, like we just can't get past ourselves to get at a table, literally, in order to figure out how to help improve this.
Yeah, the adults in the room are acting anything
but adult.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, this is how this is probably going to work today. What's going on with our kids?
Well, there's a handful of things. We have our country. So here's that reform, justice, legal piece. Women started to enter the workforce in droves in the 80s. Other countries provided the right supports, the right structures and systems. We're the only industrialized country in the world outside of Papua New Guinea that does not offer, maternity and paternity leave. And we're the only ones that don't offer childcare, universal childcare. So when you take a society that has moved forward and not put children and families at the forefront, you're going to get a ripple effect from that. So that's one thing. We're also you'll hear me say the only industrialized nation a lot. Like we're one of the only industrialized nations that allows the food chemical additives, hormones, antibiotics in their food system. that other countries have banned, anywhere from 5 to 10 years ago. And we're one of the only countries still hanging out here being like, nah, nothing to see here. And so that's hurting our children. And then like you've got pace. I mean, you probably have seen it with some of your friends or your kids too, the things that they're getting involved with, the stressors that, again, our country, school shootings, things of that nature, just the fear and the fight or flight response that American kids are in. Screens, of course, social media. So you start adding these up and they're called load factors. And it's generally not just one thing. You just start adding them on top of each other and their health just breaks. So, we're one of the only industrialized nation, there it is again, that 50% of the kids in America have a chronic condition today. Other countries can't say that, right? So when we start again adding up chronic conditions and then suicide is the second leading cause of death, we're the only industrialized nation that doesn't have, paid leave, universal child care, and some of these other supports. So you add them up, my friend, and here we are, the United States of America.
And it's so ridiculous because like it's so
preventable.
Obviously preventable. Yeah. Like red dye should just vanish from existence, right? Like, except unless you're trying to dye something other than food.
Yeah. Other than something you're going to put in your body.
I mean, because it's across the board. Like my son who deals with some neurodivergent things, like you can tell the difference. Yeah. It's like this common knowledge stuff that I think a lot of people have that just gets ignored.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, knowledge is power. So, I mean, if that has been the standard here in the United States, I mean, knowledge isn't just knowledge, it's access, it's pathways to new understanding. And so a lot of people who, live in poverty, they live in food deserts, or they just don't have access, right, to some of these better food options, or, they have a single mother and she's working 2 or 3 jobs, and there is no cooking. There is no access to some of these better foods. And so it's important to keep that in mind. I know through my training for, my functional practitioner certificate that, even when we have clients show up, there's the way that, there's the gold standard of how it could be, but sometimes we're just meeting people where they're at and trying to make these slow, small, subtle changes that can even have a big difference. Like just taking out food dyes, right, can be huge for some of these kids and families.
So what is the company, because is it the Joss?
Yeah, the Joss district.
Okay, so tell me about that.
Yeah. So my daughter was born, and I'm going to bring up something that is likely controversial on the podcast, but I have decided moving forward, like I cannot pretend that this didn't happen. And I got to be okay with people's outcome of where they find themselves when I say out loud that my daughter had vaccine injury. So she was born. She had vaccine injury. This is one of those things that you talk about and immediately, right? Like somebody has a judgment.
Yeah, you're in a bucket. Yeah.
Like, hey, you can say that your kid got a bee sting. You can say they, fell and broke their leg. You can say, that they had whatever experience, but you say your child had vaccine injury, and immediately somehow that lived experience becomes false from the person sitting across from you. And we have to stop that, because it is a reality within this country and for a subset of kids. And my child was one of them. And so, but then behind that conversation is a whole host of other conversations, and it gets really personal for people. So I respect, right, like why the energy and the passion that comes with that reaction, but we have to stop dismissing families who have experienced this outcome. So my daughter was born. What we now know is my husband has, we have genetic predisposition for vaccine injury. So we cannot methylate or detox certain adjuncts that are included in the vaccines. We now know that is a contraindication for kids and adults to be getting vaccines when they have hypersensitivity to the ingredients in them. The problem is we don't know which kids are hypersensitive to those ingredients. And so we're just guessing. And so my daughter was one of these kids that unfortunately had that reaction, and we didn't know she was hypersensitive. So, she had colic. My doctor said she was the worst colic baby that he had ever seen. And long story short, she ended up having a health break at 4, which was called PANS, Pediatric Acute Onset Neuropsychiatric Syndrome. And it's devastating. These kids basically go to bed one night, they wake up the next, and they're totally different. high anxiety, OCD, restrictive eating. I mean, I brought a list because I think they're important to go over. Bedwetting, severe food restriction, anorexia, decline in handwriting and math skills. They get hyperactive, head banging, aggression, refusal to go to school is another one. Mood swings, temper tantrums, again, depression, behavioral regression, developmental regression is a big one. So it was really interesting. As she was growing up, but she really reverted back to what I would call like 1 to 2 year old toddler behaviors. And then they can get tics. And so I like talking about this one because you hear the word tics and you're kind of like, well, what the hell does that mean? Right. So hair pulling, eyelash pulling, motor tics, like saying certain words over again or making noises or repetitive or compulsive coughing or that throat clearing that just happens over and over. So what is PANS? It's basically, to put it into layman's terms, it's your immune system getting confused and attacking not only the bad, so the microbes that might enter like strep or mycoplasma or herpes 6 or, roseola, rotavirus, things of that nature. It gets confused and goes after that, which is what your immune system's supposed to do. But it gets confused and it also goes after the good. So that's then where you have this blood-brain barrier breach. This inflammation goes into your brain, and you have pediatric acute onset neuropsychiatric syndrome. These kids are often being misdiagnosed for anxiety, depression, ODD, which is oppositional defiance disorders, autism. They're saying 50% of kids with autism have PANS and PANDAS. It's just those autism kids generally get diagnosed earlier, and they have now grouped it in as autistic behaviors. So it can be really devastating. She had it, and then she wasn't in school, and it took us multiple providers, years and a lot of money to figure out what was going on with her. So we finally got her with a provider that kind of knew what they were doing. And then we got her maintained, which was better than her completely losing her mind. And so she kind of went up and down like this for a few years. And then finally she had a terrible health break in 2023. I had to pull her out of school. We did homeschooling. And when I tell you these kids, like, I mean, a lot of them want to kill themselves. And it is no doubt part of the suicide statistic that we're dealing with today. And this is not well understood by 99% of pediatricians. ER doctors need educated yesterday, psychiatrists, psychologists. I mean, again, the world just needs to stop for a day and we need to shuffle things around and get people educated, because this is literally a life-saving measure. So I started the JOS district as a mother, as a provider, as an entrepreneur, and just saw how broke this was. As a privileged, white, accessed, educated, accessed woman, I cannot begin to tell you how devastating and how hard this was. So if it was like that for me, right, then how difficult it is. I mean, I just had another mom reach out today. I mean, in tears before I got here. And it's broke. And so, I've tried over the last couple of years to really work with the traditional setting to come up with a model. And I've just really recognized that I'm just going to have to come over here and build it. And, maybe you've seen like there's Function Health, like there's more consumer driven testing and companies right now, because consumers are desperate to get their hands on whether it's a product or a service that's going to work well for them and their family. And so it's just really been important to me to bring all of this together and really give it a consumer touch point out of the gate, instead of trying to do it the old fashioned way, if you will.
So with my wife, we were very, very fortunate. She was able to stay at home with my son, who ADHD, some other things going on. And the rabbit hole that she went down with regards to what was actually going on with him, the conversation she was able to have, but she was able to find out, the back and forth with doctors and pharmacists on the medicine, the prescription side of it, that's been a ridiculous mess as well. And she is a stay-at-home mom trying to navigate that nonsense. And then I don't know how a single parent could actually do that, right?
They're not, and not well, right? And then so who is paying for that? It's the child, right? It's the child, and it is no doubt part of why we're seeing some of the, educational issues that we're seeing around. I mean, we have more children than ever that are on the IEPs, the individual educational plans that are out there. It's not working. The traditional educational system's not working. The health care system is not working. And then you put the workplace on top of it. So, I mean, this is setting the women's movement back that we've been working on for the past 40 years, and it's destroying it overnight because while dads are still a big part of this, women are the ones that are still the beneficiary, if you will, of these outcomes when they happen. And so a lot of women, I mean, I cannot tell you, out of the hundreds of people that I talk to, the amount of women that are having to quit their job and come home because we don't have, again, the right reform in place. We don't have the right disability services in place. We don't have the right workplace structures in place. FMLA is not paid. And so these things like my daughter, I mean, it literally happened overnight. We had a mortgage. We needed the insurance, right? We're working. And so it's a mess. It doesn't work. And so if you need to leave your work, FMLA often doesn't work because it's not paid. A lot of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And so you've probably heard the word or the term, intersectionality. And
That's not what it is.
oh, okay. So like it's the crossroad of just different diverse populations and how they're coming together. And there's intersectionality of all of this. So like there's intersectionality of this problem, what's going on with our youth that's impacting healthcare. It is impacting education. It's impacting the workforce. But we look at everything so siloed.
Okay, yeah.
And so like there's the intersectionality of this core issue that if we could address it, and again, pause the world if you would for a day and take a day to just shuffle things around or look at how this all works together and change systems to talk to each other, to inform each other, how much better of an outcome that would be for kids and for families.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so blessed. The school district we live in, my wife's ability to stay at home. Again, it's an ideal situation, and it's still, a relatively ideal situation, and it's still a stressful mess. I don't. When you say to pause, the world will never pause.
No.
There's just got to make money. Got to keep feeding the machine. What are some of the things that individuals can start to do? Because I think, as a collective society, the only impact we might have is by these individual actions. So what can I do? What can I do to help? What can anybody do to start helping here?
Yeah, I think there's kind of three different ways of looking at this. There's the individual component, and then there's the family component, and then there's the community component. The individual component, one of my favorite quotes is, "If it feels hard, it is."
Okay.
It seems so obvious, but if something isn't feeling right, your kid is feeling off. There are other options out there, and that's why the JOS district was developed. We are looking at things very differently. We're taking a comprehensive systems approach to the body, and we're looking at root cause. And so a lot of times, just even knowing that there's alternative options out there, knowing that most providers at this point aren't educated on how all these childhood epidemics are coming together, and that there's treatment for some of these things, or at least improvement in quality of life. And that's what our children are needing. Like if they can't function in school, they're feeling terrible all the time. I mean, so many of them want to kill themselves. I mean, I'm using that verbiage because that is the reality. And people might not like, or it might not feel comfortable with me saying that out loud, but that is the vibe. That's what's really happening out here. And I think that's what's been interesting the past couple of weeks with what's been going on in the community. RFK gave a speech, and whether you like the guy or you hate him, it forced a conversation out of the box in a very big way. And it's forcing us to, again, shuffle the cards. And so while that might feel hard, it needed to happen. We have everybody on a spectrum. That's not working for everyone. So I think families need to know they have alternative options. And so you can come to the JOS District, www.thejosdistrict.com. And that's part of this. We're going to help you through an assessment, understand what your options are. In healthcare, that's called informed consent. And that is what should be offered to families. What are your options? So I think that's first and foremost. And then there's little things, just that don't even cost money, like looking at your food sources. Is there too much sugar? Can you bring it down? Can you introduce more protein? A lot of people don't know that protein is what impacts your neurotransmitters and your hormones in your body. And most people are getting nowhere near enough protein. And that really helps kids, especially those of us with ADHD. We need protein. And then sugar's the devil. It doesn't mean we can't, have a treat once in a while, but it's just understanding when we have it, how it makes us feel, the timing of it, or even matching it up with some protein can be day or night for some of us that have these neurodivergent tendencies. So the foods you're using, the products you're using, what you're saying yes to, if you get overstimulated, like where are you putting yourself? Like, what are you and your family doing? Is it really working for you? I started putting a limit on what I'm going to participate in during the week. I had been through so much with my family that I was home a lot, but I started to get busier. And I really recognized what I thought was a negative by being home more when my daughter was struggling with her health. I really enjoy being home with my family. And that time is so limited with them that I'm like, wait, I just don't until my kids get older and they think I'm really not cool anymore. And they're hanging out with the teenage stuff we talked about at the beginning of the call. Like, I want to be with them more.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really cool. And that sounds so simple, but like the way I grew up, that wasn't normal. So it was actually like a mindset shift for me to like allow that energy and that goodness into my soul and into my healing of my psyche, that like my family is everything to me. But again, I had a perspective of what it looked like had it gone the other way. So my daughter is now in remission from PANS. It took us 7 years, right, to get the right information, the right treatment, the right healing, but she's in remission. And so that's one of the only reasons I'm able to come out here. And now knowing what that was like, knowing what that hell was like, knowing what these families are experiencing, knowing that they can't work, knowing they financially can't pay for the treatments for their kids, like I am the voice for some of these families, and I'm not going to be shy about that. And I'm not going to keep my mouth shut, because it is truly the demise of what's happening out here. And we all really do need to wake up. So I think there's the individual factors, but then there's the community factors. And so what can people do? Ask questions, get involved. I mean, there's suicide prevention organizations. There's, Project I Am and Acoustics for Autism here locally that Nicole Corey heads up, that, my God, the amount of families that need help with profound autism at the moment, which is 30% of people who are experiencing autism.
What is profound autism? Sorry.
Yeah, so that's where the neurodevelopmental disabilities or the intellectual disability, where it's a lot of the kids who maybe have to wear a helmet, or they're headbangers, or they're nonverbal, or they can't toilet. Like, it's very intense for a lot of these families, and they have nowhere near the help that they need. And so what was interesting for me is when I came out here and my daughter got healed, I started, again, 50% of kids with autism have PANS and PANDAS. I started meeting more of these families with profound autism. And I tell you, I thought PANS and PANDAS was bad. My heart breaks for the families who have a child living with profound autism, who just through the government, through these support systems. I mean, here's the reality of what's going on for a lot of families right now. They are piecing their healthcare together on Facebook forums.
How so?
It's private. It's where they're not shamed. It's where, they aren't able to get all of the help that they need. And so it's just a bunch of people who've gone through this together that are just trying to help people out. And it's sad, as someone who's now been trained, who holds this experience, that some of it's right, but a lot of it's wrong. And so we have a lot of providers that aren't educated. A lot of this has changed in the past decade. And so if you didn't learn it in residency as a provider, it's really hard unless you're out there really in the research and you're hanging your hat on this. You're picking up a clinical trial maybe here and there, but the research is changing so profoundly. I gave you a statistic during the Rotary panel that I did, that IBM did a study a few years ago, that 90% of the information that is currently here today has just come about in the past 2 years. And so if you're a provider and you're out here dabbling in old school information, you're not at the forefront of the changes that are going on and what it is that we're able to do to help families who are experiencing this. So I think there's the individual stuff. You can take control of yourself with your decisions. You can take control of your household. You can take control within your community to really support the organizations right now to help these families dig themselves out of hell. They need the financial backing, and they need the emotional support more than they ever have.
What are the groups then locally that are doing the work?
Yeah, there's Avenues for Autism. Again, there's I Am, Acoustics for Autism. I mean, those are some of the bigger ones that are coming up right now. I mean, there's unfortunately locally, there's not a lot. And that's something as well. I mean, there's hardly any grants that are out there locally. A lot of people have to go nationally to get those, but those are the local ones. Panda and Pandas wise, there's not. There's
I'm sorry to interrupt. What was pandas again? Because you said pans.
Yep, Pandas is a subset underneath of PANS. So Pandas is pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric syndrome disorder associated with streptococcus. So again, there's generally a trigger and it's affection mediated. So again, strep, mycoplasma, herpes 6, Lyme disease, mold can be a factor for a lot of families. But when that gets into the immune system and it gets confused and it starts attacking not only the bad and the good, but strep is Pandas, and that fits under the umbrella of PANS. And we're trying to get reform changed at the legislative level. So, you start hearing me, and this gets really big, really fast, because we need systems in place for the actual education of our healthcare system right now. We need systems to change so people can even get treatment. We need our legislative representatives changing reform so that people can get treatment. We need dollars. We need respite care for families. We need that when parents have to leave work, that they're going to be able to get the financial supports. We don't have. So you start lining all of this up. And again, I'm not going to pretend it's just PANS and Pandas. I think PANS and Pandas, how abruptly it happens, is putting families in a really difficult situation. The increase we're seeing with autism is causing a really, difficult situation. But I mean, parents even experiencing cancer with their child. There's similarities here. Bottom line, we're doing a very shitty job in America with accommodating healthcare needs for kids. And if that hasn't become apparent, and how long have we already been talking? It's a problem. It's 911. It's impacting our economy. It's impacting our workforce. And we need to get it together yesterday.
Yeah.
Are we clear on that? Like, are we at least clear on that?
Crystal clear.
Crystal
clear. I mean, again, even the families who are financially well off, and I know more than a few who've had to deal with the overnight things, because there's so many of these cities so abroad. Like, if we're going through what you went through, I could not even imagine. Tomorrow I wake up and my kid has anything wrong. I don't know how I survived that, other than you have to survive to help them survive. And where we live, Toledo, Northwest Ohio, we do have a fairly sizable poor population. What the freak are they going to do? They're not going to drive to Ann Arbor. They're not going to drive to Cincinnati to help their kids. I mean, not that they wouldn't, but physically and financially, they can't.
They can't. Yeah, access is a problem. So awareness now is huge. Awareness and getting our traditional medical community up to speed with what's going on is imperative. And then again, at least allowing, like, I'll give you a situation, the mom that just reached out before this podcast. I mean, they've gone through everything I just explained to you. They've hit their deductible. They now have $3,000 in cash of certain testing they had to get done that insurance wouldn't cover. Her business is slowing down because she's service oriented. She's not working as much. And so, what I love about the Joss District and what we're doing is when you can even just get in the room, we can give you the roadmap. And so we can show you the way. And so if you have financial means and you want your hand held the whole way, great. We can help you do that. It feels really good to give every family access to where I can at least give you the big picture of what's going on. But it's funny because I can't tell you how many professionals that, like, you're undervaluing yourself. You're coming off the wrong way. You need to make it more expensive. And then here on the way in, I mean, literal tears from someone who, like, this is going to be a stretch for them even to pay the $75.
Yeah, so it's like me with my intro to tech classes. I'm doing them for free because it's my mission.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm just going to try to make this a business and financially charge as much as I can, okay, that for me, that's not my mission.
Yeah.
My mission isn't to help the people who can afford it. My mission is to help everybody.
Well, don't you think that's part of what we're also deconstructing? Like, I'm sitting here talking about how it's more than one thing, and that's what makes this really difficult. It's healthcare, it's education, it's the workplace. Like, we need to destruct so much. But I think even, like, the mindset of destructing, like, this bullshit notion, like, that we've been taught, like, I'm undervaluing myself because I want to help somebody. Like, I mean, think about that. Like, if we really sit here in that comment, Like, it makes no sense. And like for me spiritually, like it is backwards. Like a quote from a spiritual mentor of mine made the comment a few years ago, you're being promoted when you're being demoted
Okay. Explain.
because you're doing the right thing. Like it's
Okay.
not all about, do you know what I mean? Like I'm helping someone. Like I'm actually like for $75 to them people, like, how do you monetize that? How do you get in front of more people at one time? And you can, duplicate that. And there's something so special about these one-to-one sessions that I do to people. Like I can't duplicate those. I'm not going to make them a group thing. They are so intimate and they are so practical and so needed on a cellular level with each human that I get in front of, that there is no mass producing this connection with these people. Does that make sense?
100%. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
The irony is the scale word that you're hinting at. That's what's screwed us in education.
Yep.
Every time VC gets in education and tries to make it a profitable thing, they always collapse because great education doesn't scale. That scaling part of making money has brought us into the two income trap, which now has parents not at home. Not that it has to be the woman or one parent at home.
Right.
Would argue our neighborhoods would be better. Our kids would be better taken care of. But all of this like profit. What's in our food? I mean, it's all like this greed is good mentality is really just killing us.
Yeah, it's killing us. I mean, I think if we like, what are we naming the podcast? Greed is killing us, and at the end of the day, I mean, that's
not good.
Greed is not good. It's not. And it's a huge part of I think the overarching theme of what it is that we're talking about today. And it destroys me that greed is the reason that we can't help our kids today. Greed is the reason that we can't give people access to healthcare. Greed is the reason that we can't help families who are struggling with kids who have profound autism, or families that are finding themselves overnight dealing with a child who has pans and pandas. Like, what do you mean? Like we can, Bezos can send, a group of women to space, and like we're sitting here, like it's comical. Like we're sitting here, oh gosh, like how do we do this? Like this is big. We can't make this happen. I mean, if you were to literally put a group of moms in a room, I mean, I did. I'm figuring out my part of it. But if you were to put us in, we'd have this solved in 30 minutes. I'm not joking. But we don't, I mean, 80% of people in charge are men, and they do have a different perspective for how a lot of this works. Mm-hmm. And here it is, moms are being pulled back again, and we can get nowhere in the conversation because our viewpoint is not well embraced and or access at this table or room. And so a lot of it is out here now just being like, look, great, we'll build our own table, but it shouldn't be this difficult when suicide is the second leading cause of death in kids. Like we collectively as a group should be upset with that.
They're going to give $5,000 to people that have more kids. How much you got? $5,000 to freaking help the kids we have.
Exactly. Like, listen, if you want to get me, like, I mean, so let's give context for people listening who don't understand what you just said. The White House just came out, I think it was last week, that said, we are obviously in a crisis for reproduction, for, populating our planet in the years to come. We've known this is happening, but this administration is now kind of the one stuck in it. And so for those of you listening, what President Trump has now said as of last week is, you know what? Let's just give women $5,000, to have more kids. And then there's some, here, we're going to use the word stupid. My kids aren't here.
It's appropriate.
It's appropriate. They're going to offer some stupid program for women that, like, if you have 6 kids or 5 kids, you basically get a gold ink star. So we take this conversation, which I think is really relevant. This is the intersectionality thing I was talking about earlier. So that intersectionality point I was talking about, this is what I mean. Here is something from an administration, a very male-dominated administration, saying, here's what we think women need, okay? And so $5,000 is not going to cut it. And so there's a couple of things that we already hit it at the front. There's no maternity leave. There's no universal child care. There's all kinds of restrictions going on as it relates to women's rights and women's health. But here's the part, like that's on the front end. But we also, what nobody's paying attention to is the infertility rates are skyrocketing. So we don't just have they think it's just a birth rate problem. Like they think it is just women choosing to have less kids. And that is one problem. And it is connected to the things that we already hit. Like women are, they're going to college more than men in greater percentages, but we don't have these supports that for not even just women, families. Like my husband wants to be with our kids more. You love your kid. I can hear it. It's not just women. And like we have to stop with that notion that it just is, right? But I think what's also interesting is they're not taking into consideration like the infertility rates are up. So that's contributing to this. Infant and maternal mortality rates, the only industrialized nation, here we are again, we have some of the worst infant and maternal death mortality rates for any industrialized nation in the country. So they're not paying attention to that, and they need to be. And it goes back to all those supports that we were just talking about. We have suicide is the second leading cause of death. So you see these front end things that we're talking about, but they aren't even considering like, here are the things that, wait, you guys are worried about the birth rate. And we have kids in the United States of America dying from pediatric cancer, suicide, and at birth more than any other country. And they're not even considering it. And yet we're going to give you $5,000. And if you have a kid with profound autism, which the likelihood of that happening is high, I promise you that $5,000. Wait, first of all, what it costs to have a birth in America, like you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. And then you get a kid who has some type of 50% of them are going to have a chronic condition. Our healthcare sucks. So you see how, like, I know you do, but for the average listener that's like listening in, like it's not even comical anymore. It's degrading.
It's absurd. We're living in an absurd. Our society is absurd.
It's absurd. Hashtag absurd. Yes. So then we sit here with all of this and I could, right? Like I could just like, let's give all of this a moment of silence. Like, I mean, it's crazy. But you said it earlier, what can people do? I mean, there's the independent stuff that we can do, but we need voice more than we ever have. Like it cannot, I'm here to tell you, like women are out here talking about this and we have for a really long time. Again, men are in a chair at a table 80% of the time where these conversations and decisions are being had. And I have to think your audience, I don't know if you know yet your statistics, but I have to think it's highly male dominated. We need you. And we need that voice of this not just being a problem that is for women. This is a humanitarian issue. And we need men at the table and with voice to advocate that maternity and paternity leave is not just for a woman, that universal childcare is not just a woman's problem, that suicide is the second leading cause of death is not just a mom's problem, that chronic illness in this country and moms taking their kids to doctor's appointments, like let's just still say it's very female oriented and dominated. We still need men advocating that these things are important. And since they're at the table more times than not, that is something that on this call, my husband and I talk about this a lot, and we have a daughter and we have a son, and what this is going to look like for her moving forward. And he's getting it now because as a dad with a daughter, like there's a lot on the line for her.
What stinks is, and it seems like it only matters to men. I use that generalization.
Yeah, we're doing air quotes so people who can't see, like, yeah,
when it does hit close to home. You see all the time, Senator Billy Bob is against gay marriage and against the gays until their son is a homosexual. Yep. And then all of a sudden, because it impacts them, it matters. How about just it impacts our freaking population and is a good, air quotes, a good Christian nation or just a nation that gives a shit about each other? Yeah. Why don't we actually start paying attention to each other instead of sitting there ready to judge a mom or a dad or a situation? Be open to listening and better understanding what our people are going through. Because at the end of the day, I truly believe foundationally, a lot of this, when we talk about profit and everything else, it's the selfishness versus the selflessness.
I love that.
And how do, in a society that's wired the way it is, literally wired and wirelessly the way it is, in a society that was so much noise, how do we help the signal about what's most important start to get through? Because our conversation right now, it's so fucking big. This whole thing is so big, and I can see most people. It's too big for me. I can't have an impact. It's too big for me. What are the ways that we can kind of like break it down into morsels so more people can just like be active in maybe smaller pockets, because that's where we can have the bigger impact as a society.
I think in general, something that I'm seeing, you know, when you have a friend or a family member that has something personal that's going on, or maybe you know, like I first of all, I don't even think we do that, like connecting. Like, who are your people, and are you leaning in and just a text like, hey, how are you really doing? Like, we need more of that more than we ever have. Like the flyby on the feeds and everything looking good, like that has to stop. I didn't even realize, being a really strong female and going through what I was, I did not realize how traumatic the 7-year journey was until I was in year 6. I am a hair on fire. I am a balls to the walls. I am a chaos coordinator. Like, I didn't get it until I was on the floor. And I had no one along the way who recognized it because my tolerance was so high. Um, I could have I had some people that they now will say too, like, we're going back and almost like a case study looking at all of this together as friends and family. But if somebody would have said to me, like, just grabbed me right by the arms and looked me in the eyes and was like, are you okay? I don't think I would have said yes. Like, I think I needed somebody to help slow me down and help me realize that what was happening while I was holding it together, I was falling apart. And I needed help. I needed someone to tell me that what was happening wasn't right and that we needed help. And I ended up getting it. But I think the magic of that is, you know, there's enough with people that's just, I mean, 70% of college kids are having and experiencing moderate to severe psychological stress. So whether you're
As a college professor,
you would
yes,
see it.
our kids are in trouble.
Yeah. And so as parents, we need to be leaning in with these kids more. You know, I'm noticing with my son, he's 9. We just had a moment this morning where he was having a really hard morning. And I could get emotional talking about it. Maybe I will, but he really just needed some space. I'm noticing he's also, right, he has these ADHD tendencies that brother had, and they manifest differently in boys sometimes than girls. And so I'm noticing this more. And he gets, you know, he missed school a couple of weeks ago. We had that really bad flu everyone had, and he's behind. And I'm seeing how he's owning that. And I just gave him 15 extra minutes in the car this morning. Like, we got his planner out, we talked through it. I held space for him. I let him get angry. I let him talk through it, what his plan was going to be. Like, that's all he needed. And I'm envisioning like what my parents would have done. Get your ass out of the car, get in there. You know, this isn't how we do it. And so I think that right there is the first thing that all of us, like, I'm in a really big like learning and unlearning phase of my life and parenting and just as a human right now. And so what can we do? I think a lot of people, whether they're the little ones like my son, it's me and you sitting here talking today and maybe agreeing to disagree on some things, but it's holding space for people and checking in and like, are you really okay?
Yeah.
My son was really not okay this morning, and all it took was 15 minutes for him to be okay.
Asking people how they're doing it, actually wanting the real fucking answer.
Boom.
That's it.
That's it.
There's so many conversations I was able to have at on a college campus, just being like that and
Yeah.
able to help people, because I think a lot of people just want anybody to give a shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when we talk about kids, because same thing, my daughter this morning, she was having a day. She's 13, so she's having lots of days.
Yeah, lots of days.
I was like, you know, there's certain days where I would be like, just come with me.
Yep.
And I think that's partially what we have to realize too. And then we're speaking generalizations for everybody, and everybody's life is like this. But like what we're really being asked to do, the 9 to 5, the punching and do whatever we're doing, does it really fucking matter in the grand scheme of actually taking care of each other as a species? Because I'm going to argue we got to this point, or we evolved as a species because we helped each other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's how societies
Yeah.
have functioned and formed. And now we've got this 1,000-mile-an-hour society that is revealing cracks, but we're not doing. We're basically throwing duct tape on here and there, but still going even faster and faster. And at some point, this whole thing blows up.
It is blowing up. I think that's what
Big-
you and I are talking about today. Like,
Okay.
right? Like that it's blowing up. Like, I mean, cancer rates in adults are through the roof. Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, MS, like, I mean, chronic disease in adults, we're in chronic fight or flight. And so when your immune system, right, it's doing its job, but it's like the smoke's coming out of it, right?
Right.
So, the mental illness, I mean, suicide rates in men is insane. Like the levels are really, really high. So when we talk about some of the things as well for women that's not going well, it's not going well for men. I mean, the suicide rates for men, it's like astronomical. I think it's something like it's 80% compared to the suicide rates and those outcomes compared to women. Like it's huge for men. And it's not working. Like it's this 8 to 5, this punch in, punch out. I think there's a whole generation of men that are also experiencing this movement. Like I brought up even with my own husband and him owning a company and trying to figure out how to make this work.
Right.
We're all recalibrating.
And carrying the weight of a family.
Yes.
Especially if you try to do it, and I don't want to say the right way, but the way I think families work best is when one parent is home.
Yeah.
I will say that till the day I die. It doesn't have to be the woman.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, in other countries, again, they do that. Like in other countries, for the first year in other countries, between parents, you can split it up. It can be one parent that stays home. I mean, you can do it on and off. Like, but again, we don't offer those types of supports. We also hear like our mechanism for, I mean, look at the jokes that happen all day long on LinkedIn, like for, work from home. It's, oh, you just want to stay in your pajamas. And, it's like, it's so stupid. We're going to use that word again because my kids aren't here. It's so stupid. Like we're adults. We're grown ass people that there's that old school mentality again. It's like my dad showing up, just, like with me in the car with my son this morning. Like, it's like my grandpa showing up, like, you guys can't work at home. Like, I mean, I agree that there's a happy medium in there. Maybe my perspective's somewhat different, as a female as well. Like I hear that statement and I hear what you're saying and I don't disagree with it, but then that requires this movement of men and women being able to get at the table to decide, like, well, then what does that look like? I don't hear a lot of men say that. And I think it's really special and great that you do. But that would be the challenge that if anybody else is listening to, like, okay, like we need that voice. So like, how would we get that out there more? Like, is there a group of men that would come alongside women and be like, great, we really need to push for this maternity and paternity leave in like other countries, like the first year of life, there is a parent at home.
yeah, it should be a no-brainer.
It should be a no-brainer.
And that's, I think, what boggles me the most with all of this. Like, the science is the science, but also just the anecdotal. Like, if you're not seeing what's going on with our young people and how they're struggling and how we're not really doing anything necessarily to even think about what we could do to make it better. Like the fact that we're not having continuous conversations about how to help our young people pretty much tells me we don't give a shit about
We
our
don't
young
give a
people.
shit.
So
We care about greed. Like
Yeah.
that's the unfortunate truth and reality. One of my favorite quotes right now is the truth is often so valuable that it has a bodyguard of lies.
Okay.
And I think that's what we're working through right now as a society is what are those lies? Like what's true? What's not? What's real? What's made up? What's bullshit? Like what? My kid, I'm sitting here thinking of the school system and this tardy system. And like, I get that we have to have bumper rails. Bumper rails keep things in line. They keep us safe. But if my son really needed 15 extra minutes this morning to accommodate his body, his mind, his ADHD, he's automatically getting a tardy for being 15 minutes late. So like, why do we do that? Like what? Like what's the real, like what's behind that? Like what could we change?
What problem are we actually trying to solve by counting the number of days somebody's not at school? Like, so my son, before my wife was able to really kind of figure out what was going on with him, there were days when he was super disruptive in the classroom. And there were days where I would keep him home because I'm like, I can't send you to school right now because it's not going to be good for you. It's not going to be good for anybody else. And then eventually we get like a letter saying, hey, your son can't miss any more days. I'm like, this is so stupid because I'm going to send him in when he shouldn't necessarily be there or might cause problems, whatever it might be, right? Be a distractor to other people, like, because some arbitrary rule from some number that some people sitting at the table at Columbus decided that needed to be the number of hours they have to be there. Like, there's no, like, it doesn't feel like there's any thinking with inside of anything that we're doing.
Right.
There,
Well, and
there will exist.
and that's why homeschool is becoming all the rage, and it is being adopted in really high numbers for families because they're done dealing with the bullshit that comes with all of the things that we're talking about today.
I mean, you want to know a system, and this probably doesn't give us any hope, but we've known for decades that our school system is broken.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed.
No,
not a thing.
Not a thing.
Because
Not a thing.
Too hard of a system, I guess, to turn.
And that's what's wild, because I'm not joking. Like, if you were to get a group of moms, even different political, like if you were to get, and it doesn't just have to be moms. I'm saying, though, they do need to be at the table, and they're often not. If you were to start getting some of these people in the room, and then that goes back to what we're talking about, though, with the greed and the power. Like, these problems could be solved yesterday. Like, I look at what we're doing at the Joss District and the amount of families. So this has been pretty heavy, what we've been talking about. Hope is there. Like, healing and, help and healing and good vibes and good energy. Like, it's possible. You just have to pick yourself up out of the system and find where you can exist. And, like, hope is possible. Like, that's what makes me so excited coming and sitting here and talking with you today. Like, there are kids that are not doing well. We can fix this. So there's things down at a very cellular, individualized level where people are beginning to make decisions and they can get help. Where I'm really hopeful that having conversations like this is that we can bring them to the forefront of the community and be like, look, it doesn't have to be this way. Like, let's get a group of us together. And, a group of us just went to Washington, D.C. Napa, the group I was talking about earlier. We were in D.C. 2 weeks ago. We're talking to our representatives that this is stupid and that, look, kids are dying. Like, they're dying. And we need to start having these conversations around things that need to happen and that need to change. But we need more people coming along for that ride. And then there's multiple conversations. So it's really hard for me to look around. And again, I was humbled. So it goes back to your point of sometimes this has to happen to you before it becomes real. But I don't think, as somebody who's been through it, I didn't see a lot of me's along. Is that a word? I didn't see a lot of me's along the way either, like waving their hands and being like, hey, this is important. This is 911. So that's really part of why I decided to come out here. And, there's so much behind this conversation with behaviors from my daughter. And I understand why people don't talk about profound autism, or they're not talking about pans and pandas, or their kid feeling like they don't want to be here anymore. Like, this is heavy, uncharted territory stuff.
It's hard enough living with it, let alone just talking.
Right. And then I had to heal for a few years before I could really come out here and A, help more people, and B, talk about it. But why I decided to start doing this, though, is I didn't hear a lot of people talking about it, and we need to start. And so I realized there's the camp that looks at me and it's like, it's their own trauma, or maybe it's hitting parts of them that it's too uncomfortable. Great. There's the people that are like, they're paying attention, and maybe it's going to take a few years. And then there's the people, that'll reach out and they're like, holy shit, like, suicide is the second leading cause of death for kids. How do I get involved? And it's like, hey, if you see some of my stuff, like, literally just sharing it. So other parents, I rambled off those, symptoms of pans and pandas today. Like, there will be people that are like, oh, so my kid just doesn't need to be on an SSRI. That has an SSRI, so the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, that's the Zolofts, the Prozacs of the world. Those medications, while they can be valuable in certain situations and still be important for certain kids, they're being handed out like candy. And there's no differential diagnosis. So like 20 years ago, you had to get a medical workup. You had to rule out other things before you were able to be given an SSRI. Today, you basically have a symptom of anxiety or depression. I used to sell them. I worked at a pharmaceutical company. I worked at Pfizer. I sold Zoloft. I know exactly what happens in these doctors' office. So when sometimes I start talking about this stuff and people are like, whatever. Like, no, I literally was on the front lines seeing how this happened every single day. And I have one word. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. And so knowing these things have a black box warning on them for kids, like we owe them.
Black box warning, sorry.
So there is a black box warning. It is the highest warning from the FDA that's out there, that there are serious, from post-marketing data and clinical studies, there are serious side effects or things to be considered. And so suicidal ideation, all SSRIs for kids under 18, it has a black box warning for suicidal ideations.
And we're just
handing them out.
handing them out like Flintstones vitamins.
And then suicide is the second leading cause of death. So again, the intersectionality of this conversation. Why has no one brought forth, hey, we have this outcome happening with kids, and hey, we have this black box warning, and hey, 25% of kids in America have a mental health disorder, and many of them are on antidepressants, and we have not correlated. We have not correlated or brought this to the forefront.
Well, I mean, let's go down the rabbit hole. I mean, is there a group that doesn't want this problem solved?
Well, of course, the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
I mean, and with who controls the lobbying dollars, who controls the money, who controls the purse strings? Pharmaceuticals and food companies are some of the two largest lobbying groups that exist in DC today. So when we go back to our original theme of what was it? You had a really great tagline about greed.
Greed is not good.
Greed is not good. That is essentially what takes us.
Well, we're
back.
basically selling our health. We're exchanging.
We're selling our souls. It really honestly goes back to, that's again where we have to decide. And for anybody, listen, if there's one person from this that's like, you know what, I need to change a few things, or hey, you know, my kid has some symptoms. You're right. Maybe I should reach out and see if there's something going on. But these are the types of things that hearing this data, hearing this information, it's like, how am I stepping off the hamster wheel and participating differently as an individual, as a husband, as a wife, as a mother, as a father, as a friend, as an advocate in my community? Like, those are the questions that we can control. Those are the answers that we can move forward with and do something different.
How can I help?
I mean, having awareness today and being able to talk about this, these statistics, these are important. So awareness is half the battle. And then, you know, I would say, you know, for me personally, like when you see something and you have like that educational part of sharing a post once in a while, you know, we need more men for sure advocating for some of these policy changes as it relates to universal childcare. And
If for no other reason than because the men are the ones who are around the table when the decisions are made. Right?
Exactly. We call this, right? Like we call these women's rights. We call these women's issues. That's what they're called. I mean, I've been to the events at BGSU that they have the women's events. I mean, they're strung throughout Toledo all the time. The only people sitting in the seats are women. And so, again, it's a problem. It's a problem. And so we really want to partner with more men. We want to have these conversations. We want to work together. These are not women's issues. These are
Families.
These are family issues.
Society issues.
It's society issues. And these are at the forefront of the intersectionality of the problems that we're facing. These couple of different areas that we're talking about. So not like, that's what I like, 2 birds, 1 stone. We're talking about like, well, 5 birds, 1 stone, that we really could be addressing with some of these as it relates to healthcare, education, and really get, you know, solving some of these problems are really going to help a lot of different areas.
We solve some of these problems. It's going to lead to better educational outcomes. It's going to lead to less crime, I would argue. I mean, basically all of the things, I think, not all things, the vast majority of things that ail our society, we can probably trace back to the nucleus of the family and how much we have distorted.
Yes.
Alicia Wagner, you are quite possibly one of the most fascinating people I've had on the podcast.
Really?
Yes. Just because like I've had passionate people on, but like this has just been phenomenal. Like, one, I think hits really close to home, obviously. Number 2, you know, you have remaining in it. And how do you, as somebody who is probably reliving some of what you went through as part of your conversations with people you're trying to help, how are you helping yourself to stay okay?
I think when you get I'm trying to, you know, I want to remove that word. When you hit rock bottom, you have to, like, the weight is too heavy to bring it all with you. And so when I spoke earlier about learning and unlearning certain things in my life, while I was down there, you know, I made a deal with God. I never knew. I mean, I'd worked at pharmaceutical companies. I'd won awards. I'd I had started my own company. I started my second company. I had done so much that the prospect of coming to terms sitting on that floor that this was going to go one of two ways. I was never going to get out of my house again, and my daughter was so disabled and sick that I was going to have to stay home with her. And I tuned in that day that if that was what was going to happen, I was putting all my eggs in that basket, and I had to be okay with it. And that was going to be my life. The next path was if if I put all my eggs into the basket of doing everything I could to help my daughter and heal her, that if God got me out my front door again, that I would be one of his largest servants and advocates for talking about this. But while I was down there, what got exposed was this isn't just a pans and pandas problem. It's what we've talked about a lot. It's a societal problem. And so I really have been unlearning to learn, like, what am I doing for myself? I just refuse to show up any different than how I want to moving forward. So like if I can't get something to somebody in their time frame, like I'm cool with that. Like I'm okay with the judgment. Like I am so okay with myself that now it was almost literally like a life and death situation because that's exactly what it felt like. My daughter didn't want to be here. Having to think about what that would actually look like. I had to think about what it would be if I never had my life back. Like I got a taste, right? It's kind of like Scrooge on the like I got the different views of what this could have been. And so I just don't have the tolerance anymore for judgment. I don't have the tolerance for what people think about me. I don't There is just no other mission than moving forward to help make our place or our world a better place for kids and families because I know what they're going through. I know what the alternative is. And so to answer your question, I don't put the stress on me anymore. Like I show up, and if things are messy and raw and what they are, I will just tell people. Like I don't care about the corporate bullshit anymore. I don't care about the undertone of what the world is trying to prescribe for me, how this is supposed to go. And so I do things the way I want to do them. Like if I have a day and I need a day, like I'll take a day. If I, I just operate very differently. And as you can tell, maybe even having this conversation, I'm even working through what that is. I mean, I communicate with my husband like I never have. I have joy and moments with my kids like I never have. I'm doing life away. And I lost my dad in January to cancer after a 13-year battle. And that was like the cherry on top for me because he was 65. And I just I just I just know that there's a path and a mission that I'm on, and if I waste any time, any hour, any minute like giving in to the system, then we'll never break free of it. And so, I take breaks when I need to. I'm in nature more. I'm eating right. I'm moving. I'm sleeping good. Like I'm going against the grain of everything that we're basically taught and doing it the way that I think it needs to be done with
No,
full permission.
phenomenal for permission from no one other than yourself.
Yeah, I have no one else that I'm fighting. The only game I'm playing every day is just trying to calibrate into my soul being of who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing here.
So what advice would you give them to other moms who maybe yesterday was the day they found out something like this happened to them?
Yeah. Definitely reach out to the Joss District. And again, we can get them through a very easy assessment. Like AI is ridiculous right now in really terrible ways and in really profound ways. And so where I'm choosing to use it is in the profound ways of really taking information and helping boil that down for families. So like through our assessments and through our questions, we're really able to help bring together information for families in a really cohesive way. And so we can get them the right information, we can get them the right providers, we can get them the right testing. And so, you don't have, I mean, I don't share this often, but I'll share it. I mean, we spent 7 years and $100,000 just throwing, at the wall what would stick to help our daughter. And we wasted a lot of money because there was nobody out there to help guide and direct this. And so parents don't have to spend that much money. They just need to get with an organization or within a system of someone who's been through it before so they can help guide them.
Yeah. Navigate through it, right?
Navigate through it. And so reach out to the Joss District. I mean, we have got the right assessments, we've got the right testing, but we've got the right providers. And so what I've really spent 2 years doing is building a network across the country of people who know what they're doing. So not only can it take 7 years to find the right provider, what we're forgetting about in there is these are kids who have brain inflammation and often moderate to very severe brain inflammation. While we have neuroplasticity and there's a lot that we can do for kids who are in brain inflammation to help heal, the longer they're in that, there is irreversible damage at times. And that was for me as a mom when I read that science, that literature, that information out there, that I'm like, wow. There were elements of the path that were embarrassing, that like to be able to articulate some of this stuff to a provider. And I was so shamed along the way. Like we had a therapist who potentially thought we were abusing our child. I mean, this is real.
Yeah.
This is happening all the time. I mean, children's services is getting involved. Parents are, these kids are getting admitted to hospitals. They're not educated. I mean, it's a nightmare. So parents are hesitant to get the help that they need because providers aren't up to speed. So that's where, again, building a safe network, a safe system of people who've been through this and bringing together the right providers that are going to speed up this process for you. But they're also not going to look at you sideways and wonder and judge and be like, the other thing we heard along the way was, no, truly, like I heard this from other therapists, like I'm just the bad parent, or she's just the bad kid. And like, you got to parent different, or you've got to do this different. None of that was true. She had a physical, medical, biological condition that was pushing all of this. And how many kids now are sitting in therapy, or they're sitting in these sensory programs, or they're sitting in any program, and they're just being told, right, that they need to change when they have a medical event that is pushing and stemming so many of these issues.
So the Justice District, though, that's not just for pans and pandas. That's
No,
anything.
and that's exactly right. So much of this can stem. So based on your genetics, like this could have, if my kids had the right genetics, this could have manifested differently in autism. They could have got cancer. There are different things happening to different children based on their genetics. So a lot of these issues, right, when you're coming in, if they're autoimmune, if they're inflammatory related, metabolic, infection induced, it could be manifesting in a couple of different ways. So a lot of these kids have comorbid conditions that are going on. So you might have the ADHD, you might have the sensory issues, you might have food allergies. So it's really important that when we can bring some of this together, that we're not only even addressing one condition, we're able to knock maybe potentially a few off. Or like for me, when I'm healthy, my ADHD is my superpowering. Like it's my wiring in my brain. But when I'm not healthy, that is just an extra obstacle for me. And so when I'm able to take those different factors and get everything lined up, like that's where I can have energy. It's where I can be at my best peak self. So it's cool that we're able to bring kids in, and based on any chronic condition, we're able to help get them based on that assessment lined up with the right testing and the right provider. And for some kids, just improving their quality of life so that they can get to school, so they can enjoy their time as a family. They can get out of their house and go to the park and not be stuck in their room and not be able to enjoy each other.
Like, I kind of want to talk about ADHD, but I'm going to save that for when you listen to the pod. What you do with Nancy.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
Nancy Dispro with Viralocity is doing some really amazing work.
Yeah, she is phenomenal for sure, for sure. Is there anything else that we should cover? I mean, I feel like there's 1,000 things we should cover, but I don't.
I mean, I think
I want to keep talking to you. By the way, after this podcast, we're going to find ways to continue to talk about this conversation.
I would love that. Let's recap. It was, I mean, what are we at? An hour and a half?
Yeah.
What are we at?
An hour and
some change?
Just about an hour. Yeah, just about over an hour. Yeah.
I mean, I think we need to slow down to speed up and be kinder to each other.
Pit stop as a society.
I like that. Pit stop. We need to start making some pit stops. So maybe, I'm going to hold that. Every week I do this, but I'm going to have a name to it now. Like every week when I get in front of my calendar on Sundays, there's a few people I'm intentional to just do what we said. I check in with them. Mm-hmm. And so, but I'm going to start calling it a pit stop. So who are my pit stop people this week? And that's what I would challenge people listening to this. Who are your pit stop people this week that you're slowing down to just, hey, how are you really? And then yourself, like, what are things that you need to change? Like, do you need help? Do you need to get your help? Do you need to make better decisions around food choices or moving or, products that you're using? Is that something you need to look into? And then, what are a few intentional ways within your family that if you want things to get better, what does that look like? But I would really also challenge people from an advocacy standpoint, from a community standpoint. Is there nonprofits? We have more nonprofits in Toledo than Chicago. I don't think a lot of people know that.
Yeah, it's wild.
We got a lot of nonprofits here. So good news, we have Big Heart in Toledo, Ohio. Bad news, we don't have the economic backbone of a Chicago. And so, listen, these nonprofits need your help now. Right now.
Now more than ever.
Now more than ever, especially because of what we've seen right recently with the administration and their decision to cut dollars. These organizations, which were, again, one of the only industrialized nations, like a lot of more social safety nets are out there. Our country, we lean on nonprofits. So we just cut funding to nonprofits for the people who need it most. We cut their programming and now we cut funding to nonprofits and they need help. So guess what that means? We have to step up.
And then all the problems that will occur down the road.
Right. Listen, sometimes I wonder, like I'm sitting here and I'm looking up and I'm like, why is this happening? I mean, I'm a God girl. And so I think this is a huge test to get us back to the basics. And we've talked about some of those today, but we have allowed things to really kind of spin so far out that I think this is the recalibration of bringing some things that are core fundamentals. Like there's the fundamentals of business and leadership and, of sports and there is fundamentals to humanity. And we've somewhat lost some of those tenets.
I think that's what my hope is for this AI stuff, is that it's going to explode or is exploding, whatever's happening. And we will then, some of us will stop and really think about what does it mean to be human? Mm-hmm. And what does it mean? What kind of society should we have? Not can we have, because we can have anything. And maybe I'm just a delusional for thinking things will get better as part of this.
No, please be delusional. Please hold hope. I think it's the only way that we're going to get out of this.
Yeah, because I think if we don't have hope, then we don't care. And then if we don't care, then obviously we aren't going to solve any of the problems. When it's a society that at the end of the day has been better when we tried to help each other. Yeah, I would argue.
It was interesting, and maybe this will be a good way to close things up. But when I was on the floor, right, with my daughter and made those decisions, and I came out and I saw how much work and intentionality had to go into helping my daughter, it really, again, changed the focus again of my marriage, my family, my work, quite frankly, and that question you asked me earlier. But I was actually disappointed in myself that I'm like, I cannot believe the amount of time that you have put into your work. And if we really ask ourselves how much time, like if there are things about you or your family, like holy shit, the amount of time that we put into everything else. And like to just slow down to like, gosh, like I wish my marriage was better, or I wish my kid would get better grades. It's like, well, what are we doing? And that I think will be a really great to conclude here that, listen, if you want to change the world, change your community. And if you want to change your community, change your family. And if you want to change your family, change yourself. And it was me being down on that floor and realizing the things that I needed to change. That's how my whole world changed. And quite frankly, it's now how I'm changing the world. And so I think we have it backwards. I see so many people that we come out here and, get big, get loud, and it's about changing the world. If you have not changed the thing inside of you that needs to change, that is going to get you on that cellular level of authenticity, that's power. Like that's how this works. And so I just, again, would leave people with, if there's something off for you today, maybe that was the whole point of the pod, like go inward before you go outward.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alicia Wagner. Holy shit. This was like the fastest hour and 10 minutes of any podcast ever. Phenomenal information. Again, I could talk to you forever. This is phenomenal. We will do this again. I
look so forward to it. Thank you for the time and space to come and just get to know you more and to be able to talk to our community on how we can continue to make the 419 a better place to live, work, and play.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
All
right, everybody. Thank you for watching the Make It Happen podcast. Have a good one, and we will see you next time. Be good to each other.